I'm Dean, I'm 34, and for the past 5 years, I've basically been my parents' unpaid accountant, handyman, and emotional support system all rolled into one. Rent, electricity, internet, even that fancy coffee machine my mom swore she needed for her blood pressure. Yeah, I paid for it all. I didn't mind at first. They were my parents, after all. They'd raised me, sacrificed for me. And when they hit a rough patch after my dad got laid off, it felt natural to step up. I just didn't realize stepping up meant I'd end up carrying everyone, especially my sister, Emily, on my back. Emily is 29 and allergic to effort. She's one of those people who somehow turns every situation into someone else's problem. No job ever treats her right. No apartment is in the right energy zone. And no boyfriend ever understands her artistic soul. My parents call her their sensitive one. I call her what she is, comfortable. She's lived at home since college and has never once paid a bill. But to hear my mom tell it, Emily just needs time to figure herself out. It's been nearly a decade. At this point, she could have figured herself out, written a book about it, and had it adapted into a movie. Meanwhile, I got married, had a daughter named Lily, and bought a small house across town. I work as an HVAC technician, good, steady job, but it's not exactly glamorous. Still, every month, I'd wire money to my parents to cover their utilities, groceries, and whatever emergencies popped up. The thing is, the emergencies were constant. The water heater broke, the roof leaked, mom's car needed new tires, dad's prescription wasn't covered. It never stopped. And they always had this way of asking that made it sound like I was the only one who could help. Dean, honey, we wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious, my mom would say, voice trembling just enough to make me feel guilty for hesitating. Or my dad, who'd sigh into the phone. You know how hard it's been since the plant closed. You're the only one doing well right now. Doing well. That phrase became their favorite justification. It didn't matter that I had a mortgage, a toddler, and student loans of my own. I was doing well, so I could handle it. And every time I told myself I'd say no next time, I'd cave anyway. It wasn't until about a year ago that my wife, Claire, started getting frustrated. Dean, she said one night after I sent another payment, this isn't sustainable. You've got to stop being their safety net. It's not your job to fund their lifestyle. I wanted to defend them, but deep down, I knew she was right. Still, how do you just stop? I told her I'd slow it down, help them only when necessary. Except necessary was a moving target. The dynamic became routine. Emily lounging at home, mom bragging to her friends about her wonderful son who takes care of everything, and me juggling bills like some kind of financial contortionist. Then, a few months ago, my parents called me over for dinner. That alone was rare. They usually asked for help, not offered hospitality. So I went, thinking maybe they had good news. When I walked in, the house looked the same as always, cluttered, cozy in that we never throw anything away kind of way. Emily was on the couch watching a show on her tablet, and mom was stirring something on the stove. Hey, stranger, she said brightly. We haven't seen you in forever. Forever was an exaggeration. I'd fixed their washing machine 2 weeks earlier, but I smiled anyway. Work's been crazy. How's everyone doing? Dad came in from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag. Better now that you're here. We were actually hoping to talk to you about something. And there it was. The tone. That we were hoping preamble that always led to a request. I felt my shoulders tense, but sat down anyway. Dad cleared his throat. You know your sister's been having a hard time lately. I glanced at Emily. She didn't even look up from her screen. Uh-huh. Well, she's been thinking about taking some time to focus on her art full-time. Paint, maybe start a YouTube channel. But to do that, she'd need a little cushion. I stared at him. A cushion? Mom jumped in. Just a small loan, honey. You know she'll pay it back when her channel takes off. I almost laughed. Emily couldn't hold a job for more than 3 weeks, but sure, her imaginary art channel would be the exception. Mom, Dad, I can't keep sending money like this. I've got my own family to take care of. Mom's smile faltered. Oh, of course, we understand. It's just, you've always been so generous. Generous doesn't mean bottomless, I said quietly. Emily finally chimed in without looking away from her tablet. Wow, Dean, nobody's asking you to save the world. It's just a few $100. That was the first time I ever heard her use that tone with me, dripping with entitlement, like I was being unreasonable for setting a boundary. I didn't respond. I just stood up, thanked them for dinner, and went home. For the next couple of months, I kept my distance. I stopped sending money unless it was for something genuinely urgent, and even then, I asked questions. I thought maybe they'd get the hint. They didn't. Instead, they started guilt-tripping me in more subtle ways. My mom would post on Facebook about how families should always take care of each other, or Dad would make comments like, "Not everyone remembers where they came from." It was exhausting. Then came the night everything cracked. Lily's 5th birthday was coming up, and Claire had planned a little sleepover for her and 2 of her friends. I'd promised to help, but worked through a wrench in the plan when my coworker called out sick. I was scheduled for an overnight emergency repair across town, something I couldn't skip without risking my job. Claire looked panicked. "Dean, I can handle most of it, but what about Lily? She's going to be up early, and I'll be dead tired. Maybe your parents could take her just for the night." It seemed reasonable. My parents adored Lily, or at least, they always said they did. So I called. Mom picked up, her usual cheerful tone in place. "Hey, sweetheart. What's up?" "Hey, Mom. I was wondering if you and Dad could watch Lily tomorrow night. Just overnight. I've got a work thing, and Claire's hosting a sleepover for her friends' kids." There was a pause, then a laugh. "Oh, Dean, we'd love to. But, well, we were actually planning a little weekend to ourselves. You know, just some peace and quiet." "Okay, that's fine," I said, trying to stay polite. "What about Emily? Is she around?" Mom hesitated. "She's resting. She's been under a lot of stress lately. You know how sensitive she is." I could feel my patience thinning. "Mom, I'm just asking for one night. I've been helping out for years. I don't think it's too much to ask for a little help in return." That's when she said it. Calm, almost rehearsed. "Dean, we're not your servants." The words hit like a slap. For a second, I thought I misheard her. "What? You always expect us to drop everything," she continued. "You have your own family now. We've done our part." I stood there, phone in hand, staring at the wall. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. After everything, 5 years of bills, repairs, sacrifices, they couldn't babysit their granddaughter for a single night. When I hung up, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't just anger. It was clarity. I'd spent years being their safety net while they treated me like a convenience. And now, when I needed the tiniest bit of help, they showed me exactly where I stood. That was the night I decided things were going to change. But the thing about change is, it doesn't happen cleanly. It unravels. Slowly, painfully. And when it finally snaps, it takes everything with it. And I had no idea just how far that unraveling was about to go. After that phone call, something in me went quiet. Not in the peaceful way, more like the kind of quiet that comes right before a storm. I didn't yell, didn't rant. I just sat at the kitchen table that night, staring at my phone, replaying those words in my head. "We're not your servants." It was almost funny. If anyone had been acting like a servant for the past 5 years, it was me. Claire could tell something was off. She put her hand on my shoulder. "They said no, didn't they?" "Yeah," I said flatly. "They're not my servants." Her eyebrows furrowed. "They said that." I nodded. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Claire exhaled through her nose. "You know what? Good. Let them handle their own bills from now on." I wanted to agree. I really did. But old habits are hard to kill. Some part of me still hoped they'd realize how unfair they'd been and apologize. Instead, what came next made me realize they didn't just take me for granted, they expected it. The following week, I got a text from my mom. "Dean, honey, the power company made a mistake again. Could you call them? You're so much better with that stuff than your father." No mention of Lily. No apology. Just another task. I ignored it for a day. Then 2. On the 3rd day, she called. "Dean, did you see my message? The power's about to get shut off." "Mom," I said slowly, "I'm not calling the power company for you. You can do that yourself." There was a pause, then a sharp inhale. "Dean, we've always done everything we could for you." I cut her off. "No, Mom. You've done a lot for me when I was a kid, and I'm grateful. But I've been paying your bills for years. I'm tired." Her voice hardened. "You've changed, Dean. Ever since you got married. It's like you think you're better than us." That line hit me right where she wanted it to. It's what she always did, turn guilt into a weapon. And maybe once upon a time it would have worked. But not this time. "No," I said. "I just think I deserve some respect." She hung up on me. 2 days later, I got a call from my dad. I half expected him to yell, but instead, his voice was low, almost disappointed. "Son, your mother's been crying. She feels like you've abandoned us." Dad, come on, I said. You two pushed me away. You said you're not my servants, remember? He sighed. She didn't mean it like that. She's just emotional. You know how she gets. Then maybe she should think before she says stuff like that. He muttered something under his breath, then said, Emily told us you've been cold to everyone lately. She's worried about you. I almost laughed. Emily's worried about me? The same Emily who hasn't paid rent since Obama was president. Watch your tone, he snapped. She's been helping your mother around the house. She's trying. Helping? You mean sitting around doing nothing? That earned me silence. Long, loaded silence. Then he said, You know, Dean, not everyone has your advantages. Emily's had a tougher time adjusting. That word again, advantages. Like I hadn't earned every cent I made. After that, I stopped answering their calls altogether. Weeks passed. I focused on work, spent time with Lily, tried to rebuild a sense of normalcy that didn't revolve around being the family ATM. For a little while, it worked. But just when I thought I was free, they pulled me right back in. It started with a knock at the door one Saturday morning. When I opened it, Emily stood there, arms crossed, looking annoyed rather than apologetic. Mom said you haven't been answering your phone. That's because I don't want to, I said. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? You guys refused to watch your niece for one night after I paid every bill you've had for 5 years. Oh my God, are you still on about that? She said. You act like you're some kind of martyr. Nobody asked you to pay all that stuff. That sentence made my jaw clench. Nobody asked. Emily, you benefited from it. You lived in that house rent-free while I paid their mortgage. So what? You're the older brother. You're supposed to help out. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. You're almost 30. You're supposed to help out too. She frowned. You always think you're better than everyone. Just because you've got a job and a family doesn't mean you're some hero. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I'm not a hero. I'm just done being taken advantage of. She huffed. Whatever. Mom's been stressed because of you. The least you could do is stop ignoring her. Emily, I said quietly. Tell Mom I'll talk to her when she's ready to treat me like a son, not a wallet. Then I shut the door. I thought that would be the end of it. But the next day, my phone blew up. Texts, calls, voicemails. My mom had apparently told half the family that I'd turned my back on them. My aunt even messaged me saying, Family isn't about keeping score, Dean. You should call your mother. That's when I realized. Mom wasn't just guilt-tripping me privately anymore. She was turning the whole family against me. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. Every time there was a family gathering, someone would make a comment. Dean, it must be nice to forget where you came from. Or, not everyone has it as easy as you. Easy. That word stung every time. I'd worked 50-hour weeks for years to give my daughter a decent life. Nothing about it was easy. Then, one Sunday, I finally decided to stop by my parents' house. Part of me wanted closure. Another part just wanted to see if they'd softened. When I walked in, the air was thick, like I'd interrupted a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. Mom was at the kitchen table, sorting through a pile of envelopes. Oh, she said, pretending to be surprised. Didn't expect to see you. Yeah, I said. I wanted to talk. Dad didn't look up from his paper. We've been fine, Dean. Emily's been helping out a lot lately. I glanced at Emily, who was scrolling on her phone. Helping how? She's been contributing, Mom said quickly. I noticed a shiny new laptop on the counter, something I knew neither of my parents could afford. Did you buy her that? Mom hesitated just a second too long. It was on sale. I almost laughed. On sale with what money? Dad slammed the newspaper down. Enough, Dean. You don't need to interrogate us. I'm not interrogating anyone, I said. I'm just trying to understand how you can afford new stuff when 2 months ago you were crying about overdue bills. Mom crossed her arms. We managed. We always do. That's when I realized what was really going on. Emily wasn't helping them. They were helping her with my money. The money I'd been sending every month for groceries and repairs. I took a step back, heart pounding. You've been giving her the money, haven't you? Mom's lips pressed together. She needed it more than we did. That sentence broke something in me. More than you did? More than your granddaughter who needed school supplies? More than the family that's been scraping by while I've been paying your bills? Mom's voice rose. You don't understand. Emily's fragile. She doesn't handle life the way you do. Then maybe she should start, I said coldly. Dad stood up, his face red. Don't talk to your mother that way. I met his eyes. Then stop letting her manipulate me. That's when Emily stood up too, eyes flashing. You know what, Dean? You're just jealous that mom and dad love me more. You always have been. I felt my stomach drop. She said it so casually, like she was stating a fact everyone already knew. Mom didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. That was the moment I realized it had never been about helping family. It had always been about keeping her comfortable, no matter the cost. I turned toward the door. You're right, Emily, I said quietly. They do love you more. But you're about to find out what happens when that love stops paying the bills. And I walked out. But I wasn't done, not even close. That night, I went home and opened every financial document I had. Bank transfers, bills, invoices. For 5 years, I'd been the one keeping them afloat. And suddenly, I realized I had proof of everything. They thought I was their servant. They were about to learn what happens when the servant quits. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the dining table with my laptop open, a mug of cold coffee beside me, and a stack of bank statements spread across the wood like a paper graveyard. Every single transaction was there: electric bills, insurance payments, cash transfers. The sheer number made my stomach churn. I had known it was bad, but seeing the total laid out in front of me, 5 years worth of help, it hit differently. Over $60,000. $60,000. That was a down payment on a second house. A college fund. Half a decade of my daughter's future evaporated in the name of family. I scrolled through the transfers one by one, reading my own notes in the memos. For mom's car, for roof repairs, for Emily's laptop. The last one hurt most because I remembered that day vividly. Emily's old laptop had supposedly died, and she'd told me she couldn't do her freelance work without it. I'd bought her a new one, same day. I could still hear her fake surprise. Oh my God, Dean, you didn't have to do that. Yeah, no kidding. Claire came into the kitchen around 2 a.m., her hair tied up in a messy bun, wearing one of my old shirts. You're still up? Couldn't sleep, I said without looking up. You want to see something crazy? She sat beside me, rubbing her eyes. I turned the laptop toward her and pointed at the total. Her jaw dropped. Dean, is that? Every penny I've sent them. Since 2019. She leaned closer, scrolling slowly. This can't be right. You were sending them this much every month. Yeah. And get this, half of it probably went straight to Emily. Claire rubbed her temple. You need to stop. Like, completely. No explanations, no second chances. Just stop. I nodded. I know, but I want to do it right this time. I'm cutting it clean. Except life had other plans. A week later, I got a call from my mom. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Dean. Her voice was syrupy sweet. We haven't talked in so long. It's been 9 days, I said. Well, that's a long time for a family. I said nothing. She sighed. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know we're having a little get-together for Emily. She's finally launching her art business. Isn't that exciting? Her what? Her art business, Mom repeated, as if I were hard of hearing. She's selling her paintings now, and she's hosting a launch party this weekend. It would mean so much to her if you came. I could feel my blood pressure rising. You're telling me Emily, who's never had a job longer than a month, suddenly has a business? Don't be negative, Dean, she said. She's finally found her passion. She's even renting a little studio space downtown. Your father and I helped her with the deposit. I froze. You what? The deposit, she said again, breezy as ever. It wasn't much. Just enough to get her started. I took a slow breath. With what money, Mom? You guys can barely cover your bills. She hesitated. We used some savings. Your savings? You mean my money? The money I sent you for bills. Dean, don't twist things, she said sharply. You gave that money freely. I gave it to help you survive, not to bankroll Emily's hobby. Dean, I don't appreciate your tone, she said, her voice rising. You're acting like we stole from you. That word, stole, hung in the air. She didn't deny it. Just got defensive. I ended the call without saying goodbye. 2 days later, curiosity, or maybe masochism, got the better of me. Against every logical instinct, I decided to go to that launch party. Claire told me not to. You're just going to get angry, she said. I need to see it for myself, I told her. The studio was a small, rented space on Main Street. One of those old brick buildings converted into something trendy for the artsy crowd. When I walked in, the first thing that hit me wasn't the smell of paint. It was the sound of my mother's voice echoing proudly through the room. Oh, isn't it wonderful? She was saying to a group of people. She's finally found her calling. We've been supporting her every step of the way. Of course they had. I scanned the room. Emily was at the center, wearing a flowing white dress and smiling like she'd just solved world peace. Her paintings hung on the walls, abstract stuff, splashes of color that looked more like therapy sessions than art. And next to her, on a small table, sat a fancy new MacBook, a tablet, and a digital camera. All brand new. "Dean," my mom said when she spotted me. "You came." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, forcing a smile. Emily turned. "Wow, didn't think you'd actually show up. Guess you're not as bitter as I thought." I clenched my jaw. Just curious to see what $60,000 looks like on canvas. Her smile faltered. "Excuse me." "You heard me." My mom quickly